Welcome to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. It's another wonderful morning here in St. James, Montego Bay in particular, as we prepare for the start of Stage 2 after an eventful Stage 1. Yep, this is a 2023 staging, the second staging after successful inaugural staging last year. And what a start we had on Stage 1. It's a wonderful day here in Montego Bay, and it's relatively cool conditions at the beginning of this stage. As we take a look at it now, 27 degrees Celsius, and there's a slight wind going at 10 kilometers per hour. It's a stage that will last for quite some time, over 128 kilometers. We're talking about 86 miles in total, and they will have a total ascent of 3,020 feet with a gradient of about 7%. So we know that it's going to be a little bit more difficult than it was yesterday. Yesterday we just went over 57 miles. Today we're clocking 86 miles, and the riders are ready. Wherever you're watching all over the world, thank you so much for joining our coverage here on the Home of Champions. My name is Donald Oliver. I'm with Kynan Cook, and he's looking ahead to what will be a fascinating day, especially with what took place yesterday with the results, with an Anguillan coming out on top. And I tell you what, Asani Hennis, based on his performance in my book, I think he's going to be the favorite heading into this second stage, but so much of the story remains to be told.
He's definitely riding well, Donald, and I would say he's one of the favorites, but there are so many riders we didn't get to see yesterday, so many good riders that are still in this field. What we saw happen yesterday was three teams had riders in the break, two teams had two riders, one team had one, which meant that all the other teammates who had members in the break stopped riding. They're not going to chase it. So there are a lot of riders who didn't ride yesterday who do have legs. And because of team strategy, we may see some new riders come to the fore. And there were also teams that collected nothing yesterday that missed the opportunity, and they have a point to prove today. So I think we're going to see some very exciting racing today. And as you mentioned earlier, the breeze seems to be quite low and quite mild now. You can see those flags barely ruffling. In an hour or so, when the heat starts to pick up, we're going to see that breeze become a real factor. We'll probably have a 20-mile-an-hour breeze. And it's going to be a very exciting day with the breeze and the 2 or 3 climbs we have.
So AVR Racing came out on top. They clocked first and second, with Asani Hennis out of Anguilla clocking 23 points. Akil Campbell out of Trinidad and Tobago finishing second on 17 points. Let's now hear from Hassani as he looked back at what took place on the opening day.
Obviously, I'm guest riding for AVR Racing, and the strategy today was Akil to be the GC, and it turns out to be me. And no problem, one team. But today's strategy was to ride more on the defense, which it didn't turn out that way. We went on offense and did what we had to do, make the break. And we pushed the break throughout the whole race. And coming down to the finish, I let it out. And nobody couldn't hold my wheel. So my teammate stayed behind the guy that couldn't hold my wheel, let the gap open and jump him to the line. That's how we got 1-2 today.
Kynan, for those of us who don't speak cycling, so to speak, explain what he was saying about his race strategy between him and Akil at the start of yesterday's stage.
It's from what he's saying, Donald, it sounds like they had chosen Akil to be the team leader to win the 3 days on average of this race. It so happened that his job may have been to police any moves that went away yesterday and keep them under control, which he may have done by jumping in that break. So happened that the break stayed away, so it's now up to him with his team leader behind and not chasing him to do the best job for the team.
But they kept together for the majority of the race, even close to the end. So I'm wondering when that he would have made up in his own mind that the race was his.
Well, once they had a 2-minute gap on the chasing group behind, they knew that the race was going to be somebody in that bunch of 5.
So the pre-race agreement would have gone out the window?
Correct. You have five men up the road, and your team leader is in the back. You have your team two team members up the road. You're not going to chase them. Strategy then changes and becomes adjusted, because you have the situation where you could chase them and bring your team leader back, but you've also brought back 30 other riders. So your strategy becomes a weaker strategy by bringing everybody back together.
Just want to clarify, because again, for those of us taking note of cycling, he said that they would have had the discussion about who probably would be the team leader for the journey. That would have changed mid-race when they moved away from the rest of the pack.
This is correct.
Do they then have an agreement en route that okay, it's anybody's race now?
Out of that group of five, it's anybody's race.
Okay.
The teams with two team members in there, they want to make sure that one of those two win.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess it's all politics at the end of the day, and again the agreement before and the decision afterwards. It's all quite intriguing for me looking on, but yeah, it turned out to be an interesting conclusion to stage one, with Hennis coming out on top ahead of Akil Campbell. And yeah, it's a nice mix of Caribbean athletes as well as the Americans up there, with the defending champion Andy Scarano presently in 5th position. But we anticipate so much happening.
And if you check out the team strategy as well, Donald, the team is riding for Akil. Akil came second. So it's just that Hennis was stronger in the sprint.
Right.
So the team orders and the team goals probably remain the same.
All right, we take a quick break. When we return, we'll have more live action, or we'll have more live action of the racers, and they are waiting on the police to actually come by the starting lineup. So that's been the hold-up so far. But we are going to be taking a quick break, and you'll come back to us as soon as the race is about to begin. Adrian, ask them to do some work now, like, and stop give just the one shot. The Joe now operate, like, give us something else. Welcome back to the Jamaica International Cycling Classic here in Montego Bay, and we're still waiting for the start of stage 2, and we must apologize for the late start, as the riders are still waiting on the police officers and security personnel to be in place at the start of this race, and it's a little bit unfortunate that we have been standing by for over 20 minutes now for the start of this one, and you can understand what the cyclists are going through. It's going to be a very long stage. We anticipate it to be about 3 hours or over 3 hours today, and it's a longer stage with the distance over 128 kilometers. But yeah, as far as yesterday was concerned, we saw Hassani Hennis coming out on top from AVR Racing, finishing on top with 23 points. Akil Campbell out of Trinidad and Tobago, also a part of AVR Racing, in second spot. And there was a move that they did that we weren't able to catch as they were about to enter Trelawney, that separated the top 5 from the rest of the pack, and we figured that would have been the difference maker. But yeah, what a move that turned out to be, because the winner came from the top 5.
Yeah, that's correct, Donald. Apparently that move went within about the first 7 or 8 miles of the race. We missed it on our feed because of some difficulties, but the move went quite early and stayed away for the rest of the day.
And what would have done for the rest of the way, because obviously there was little response to that move, with these 5 dominating the proceedings from very early. Yeah,
the rest of the field got caught out. The other 4 or 5 teams that didn't make this break got caught out, and the remaining 7 or 8 members of these combined teams did nothing to help bring this move back. So those who missed the break had all the work to do themselves, with the remainder of these teams breaking the pace up and making it difficult for them.
Yep, and in the end it was Hassani Hennis who came out on top, and Anguillan with some experience would have taken part in a road race championship in Belize, and would have won that recently, and has a lot of experience under his belt, and I think he's just one to look out for.
He's definitely one to look out for. Also, Akil, who he was working, who seems to have been the designated team leader for yesterday, is also riding very strongly. And the rest of the riders in this break, Andy Scarano deserves mention, and some riders that weren't in the break we could also look out for today. We have Jerome Forrest, who rode very well last year. Andrew Ramsey, who wasn't at his best last year, he was recovering from injury, is here and riding very well this year. We have the youngster Kajor Shu, who's a very strong rider, came in 10th yesterday. We have a lot, hopefully we see a lot of the riders we didn't get to see at the front yesterday coming to the front today.
And the likes of Jerome Forrest would have done extremely well last year, as you mentioned. Although in the end he was disqualified, but you could tell that he could take on this lengthy stage from Montego Bay to Discovery Bay and back.
Definitely. And we didn't see much of him yesterday because he's on the team. He was on the team of the eventual winners, first and second place. So he would, once they were up the road, his instructions would have been to sit tight and not helping his team to stay away. So he was neutralized yesterday because his team was up the road.
Well, still have a lot to look forward to on this second stage, and we hope that it gets underway soon. But for now, they are waiting for the police officers to show up at Witter Village so we can get it underway. We're approaching 30 minutes after the scheduled start time, which again is a little bit disappointing and weary for the cyclists, as they really would want to get a lot of the riding in these cool conditions before the sun really comes belting down on them en route. But we're going to take another break and hope for a bit more action in a few minutes' time. Stay with us. Hello and welcome back to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic in Montego Bay, and the riders are set to leave out of Witter Village in short order. We have information that the police officers have finally arrived, just took them half an hour after the intended start time, but at least we are anticipating for a go in short order. But yeah, the riders have been waiting patiently to get out there and tackle the route from Witter Village to Discovery Bay and back. And yeah, it's going to be over 128 kilometers in length, and they will go through quite a bit of terrain in this one, Kainan.
Yep, we have a little bit of everything today. We have flat racing, we have headwind, we have tailwind, and we have the 3 or 4 climbs that are going to be pretty nasty today. So we're rolling out now, and we're looking forward to a very exciting next 2 hours.
They do have the King of the Mountain stages to look forward to as well, and there are quite a bit of them on this second stage. But as we take a look at the cyclists coming out, and the team from Atlanta at the top of the pack for the time being. You see Andres Carano, the defending champion, right in the middle there, and they'll be well aware that this staging of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic will be a lot more difficult than it was last time out.
Yeah, I think they realized for sure yesterday, Donald, that it's not a walkover like it seemed to be last year. It's a lot more difficult for them. There are a lot more riders that are have better legs this year, and the team seem to be a lot more organized that they're facing as well. So we're looking forward to an exciting day. Hopefully we see some new faces, hopefully see a bigger group going away than just 5, so that we can have a lot more drama when it comes down to the end. But whatever happens today, I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting run-in.
Yeah, the action is about to really get underway in short order. But yeah, they're just strolling along in the opening moments of this one.
The youngster Christian McFarlane leading the pack at the moment. Guest rider on the 706 team. And on the left of our picture there, I believe we have Brighton John from Guyana, who was 3rd yesterday.
Yep, and he's gonna push out first.
And maybe that's how everything started yesterday. We missed it, but that could have been well how it started yesterday.
Well, this is a pretty early start. I mean, they know the route now, and Brighton John is going to get a little bit of company in the early stages.
And I'm looking at these flags, Donald, and the breeze doesn't seem to be as aggressive as it was yesterday. As the sun rises a little more, the breeze is going to pick up. So I think they make the best of the gentle breezes at the moment.
And it's behind them at the moment. So they're getting a little bit of a push.
They're getting a little bit of a crosswind here, but that's not going to last long. It's going to change to straight headwind, probably within the next few kilometers. Once we get to about 8:30, the heat comes up a bit, and that breeze starts to come down the coast, which is into their faces.
What do you make of this move by Brighton John, though? Because the lead is stretching.
I think it's a little early, but let's see. He's a very good rider, and so is the young kid behind him. The kid behind him is about, I think, 15, and his name is Christian McFarlane, and his uncle trains them, and he's a 2-time Caribbean champion, raced in the US for many years, and very, very capable rider, very capable family of riders. They also have, he has another cousin in the race, Bradley McFarlane, who we saw spill yesterday, and I got reports yesterday that he's okay and back on his bike today, no injuries.
Yep, Christian McFarlane, also in the under-18 category, and actually finished out of the top 10 yesterday. Finished 16th, did young McFarlane, and he's hoping to make a bigger impact, but obviously he's behind yesterday's 3rd place finisher, Brighton John, out of Guyana. John would have picked up 12 points yesterday, but yeah, he's certainly pushing out quite early, quite hard in the opening stages of stage 2.
They're building a good little gap here, but I do think that it might be a little early to be doing that. And if I was Christian, I would have advised him to sit in the pack a little longer. And learn as much as he can. I think that with all the power in this main group behind, I don't see these two staying out for much longer. If it were 4 or 5 or 6 of them, I would think they have a better chance. But there's so many legs behind that I think can bring them back.
Yep, and that's the pack going along the coastline, and what a beautiful shot that is. It's quite picturesque, quite serene. You see the top 2 riders almost to the top of your screen there, and they are trying to close that gap, and they are closing that gap. But yes, they continue to make their way along the north coast. Just to tell you that there are going to be stoppages in the break because of the terrain, as we take a look at them being caught up and the leadership changing now.
It looks like everybody has come here to ride this morning, Donald.
Yeah.
This is exciting. We have action from the go, and this doesn't look like they're small moves. These moves look, the leaders of these moves look like they want to make these moves stick for the rest of the day, and they're going hard. This is again Christian McFarlane trying to get across to them for the 706 team. He's doing an awful lot of work. They must have given him instructions today to stay with whoever goes out on.
Scarana has just overtaken him actually, and he's making his move. Haven't spotted Akil Campbell as yet, nor Hassani Hennis. Hennis, of course, the winner of stage 1, but I'm sure he's right there in the mix.
Well, we have his teammates, Andrew Ramsey, and that could be Ennis or this could be one of them coming up here now. But it looks like we're going to have a very, very exciting day today, Donald. They're throwing punches from the off.
Yes, it looks to be quite an eventful stage, and we saw where a lot of cyclists sat back yesterday. Probably they were just trying to feel out each other. They don't, because many of them are riding this course together for the first time.
What I also think too, Donald, they might have had the opinion I had yesterday, where a move might not go so early, that on this first leg, the moves might come later on. And I think a lot of the riders in that pack, when they saw 5 riders try a thing yesterday, may have thought that that's not going to stick.
Yeah, and probably thought it was a bluff.
They probably thought that they would have been able to bring it back because it was too early, and they didn't. So a lot of times what we think is not how this thing plays out, and I think we're going to have more surprises today too, because these guys are riding. They've come to ride today.
Still Brighton John out in front, it seems.
It seems that way. We'll have to wait and see his number. A lot of I identify some of these riders. I look at their shoe colors. Some of these teams have different shoe colors, and I try and identify them that way. I forgot to take note of Brighton's shoe colors yesterday, but certainly someone on his Unity team.
But you can hear the wind as well, quite a bit of it, as we stay with the opening pack, and that looks to be Scarano up top.
And with these constant early attacks, Donald, whoever is not in top shape, these constant attacks and these constant pace changes up and down,
it will filter out a few.
It wears on riders like sandpaper, and you do this 2-3 dozen times, you're gonna have a lot of riders just not being able to handle the next one. And I think that's what these guys are doing now. The guys in top shape are just doing these repeated punches to wear down those who don't have the legs today, and see who their real contenders are. This looks to be Andrew Ramsey and Chad Connolly or this may be Brandon and Andrew Ramsey. Brandon from the 706 team. That's John Butler, actually, from the
John
706
Butler.
team.
We're in number 42.
I recall him with that stance on the bike, with his elbows on the bars.
And he's wearing red shoes. Let's take note of that.
If that third rider in the middle of the gap there gets across, they'll have a much better chance of working together and opening a bigger gap on this chase. It's still early in a 87-mile, 130-kilometer race for riders to be riding this hard. So I'm really excited by this, to see what's going to happen, because there are definitely going to be some riders who are going to start falling off the pace early, and some of these riders may be wearing themselves out early. So we'll see what's happening, because this is very early to be starting the warfare.
Yeah, we mentioned before that the team out of Atlanta, 706P, most of them are actually out of Atlanta or Georgia. John Butler, who is in second spot at the moment, actually lives in Seattle, and he does compete in both the road race and off-road events as well. He's a former motocross racer as well.
The team, I think that the glue of that team is from Atlanta. We have the manager of the team, Clay Parks, one of the team sponsors with Parks Law. He is married to Iona Winter, our decorated multi-time cycling champion and Olympic triathlete, is married to Clay, and they live in Atlanta, and they've done a lot to help Jamaican cycling, and supplying gear and coaching to a lot of the youngsters in Jamaica. And he's the team manager here, and he's really the glue that built this team and organizes them to come down every year.
Edwin Sutherland, by the way, is the other rider out of Barbados, in second spot at the moment, right behind John Butler. And Sutherland, of course, also a part of the AVR racing team that was put together for this meet.
And a good 3 or 4 riders on this AVR team were on the Jamaica national team that represented last year. So this is a very strong team.
Yep, but there's John Butler in second, behind Edwin Sutherland, and the pack not too far behind.
Seems to be like about 20-30 seconds behind. It's a decent gap, but they'll need to have quite a bit more to start building any confidence of burying themselves for the next 2.5 hours.
Really is about when you'd want to make that move, but yeah, very early stages here. We have about 124 kilometers to go, or probably a little bit less.
I don't see this 2-man breakaway staying away for the duration of the day. I would love to be wrong, because it would make for really exciting racing, but they've taken on a very big task early on.
And they are going to interchange from time to time, one suspects, although Butler, well, there you go.
Yeah, you see Butler flick his elbow, that means to the rider behind him, your turn, come around. And they'll communicate with each other that way, a flick of an elbow to indicate that my turn's over, your turn to face the breeze and give me some shelter.
So yes, it's the kind of moments that we see in cycling that some of us find a little bit baffling, but it happens until it doesn't, close to the end.
It doesn't, and both these riders realize that if they rode on the front too long, the rider behind is getting a free ride. So to make it work, they have to trade the work. To keep this break going, they have to share the work, because the front rider will wear out. There you see a flick of the elbow, and we're changing of the guard, so to speak.
Yep, so Butler and Sutherland. It's Sutherland now out in front. Sutherland out of Barbados, Butler out of the United States, and in particular Seattle. And Sutherland with AVR Racing, Butler with 706P. Of course, 706P had the winner last year. And AVR Racing has the leader this year. A wave of the hand from Butler. Seemed to be enjoying the stroll. But it's a nice, easy journey so far from the two. And again, they interchange. That's the chasing pack. And maybe a move being made from the chasing pack, a third rider.
That looks like another rider from the 706P team, so it looks like they have a plan there, and a fourth rider from the 706 team trying to go across. So that seems like it might be a strategy: 2 up the road and then send another 2, and now it's 4, and you have a real chance of trying to stay away with 4 men up the road.
It's being stretched though. It is being stretched.
The rest of the peloton here, Donald, would definitely realize if we let these 3 guys up the road, 3 guys from one team up the road, we're in for a long day and a tough day. So I think they're going to respond as immediately as they can and try and bring everything back together. And they have.
Yep, but it's pretty early in this stage 2. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break here for more coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. And when we return, we'll have a lot more of the coverage. Stay with us. So yeah, welcome back to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic, and it's still the top two. Yep, it's between Butler and Sutherland. Butler just now going ahead of Sutherland. Sutherland, of course, out of Barbados, and Butler out of the United States. And it's a story of the last few minutes, these two going ahead of the chasing pack.
Yep, they seem to be going really well, and I would expect that at some point they'd be caught, or we may have a few other riders jump from this group and bridge up to them and create a group of maybe 5, 6, 7 riders. And if that happens, then I think we'll have a really exciting race on our hands. Or what could be more exciting yet is for this whole group to pull them back and we have a reset.
Again, I mean, you try to look at the strategies and try to understand as to their mindset and how they are going to be making a move, but you have to wonder as to how long this will last for.
Yep, and this could be a move that goes just to test the legs of riders behind, and or it goes out to see who comes across. A lot of the time, two riders can go on the attack, and their attack, the survival of the attack depends on who else joins them. So if we see, like I said, 4 or 5 other riders get across to these guys, then we have a real break on. My preference would be to see the whole group come back on these guys and we have a restart and have it all happen again. Because it's been really exciting racing so far, Donald. There have been attacks from the start, probably a dozen attacks so far, and this one has stuck for the time being. But it would be exciting to see it all come back again, and let's have a fresh go at it again.
They're going to be taking on a little bit more difficult terrain than what we're seeing here. Yes, they're going up a slight gradient. They are approaching Iberia Star now, and but it's going to be a little bit more difficult a little bit later on as they head past Iberia Star and they go into the parish of Trelawney.
Yep, they're going to face Spring Hill as they come in a little outside of Discovery Bay. They'll hit Spring Hill and they will hit the Braco climb, both of which are leg sap energy sappers, and they're going to hit the Spring Hill climb twice, and I think they may hit the Braco climb once.
Mind you, coming back is way easier. Yeah.
Coming back, you're sorry. They're going to face both climbs twice. Coming back, you're going to face the Braco climb as you turn around.
Right.
Having just gone over it as you enter Discovery Bay. So I think we're going to have the real decisions of the race being made there if they haven't been made before, and I think we're going to see the field shell out into about multiple fragments and fractions after that return leg of Braco Hill, and whoever is out front there at that point or in the top 10 should stay there, because they'll be facing a tailwind all the way back to Montego Bay.
So the top two, you're going to see the supporting cast in just a little while. They are some way behind. We're going to try and get a more accurate reading as to how far behind they are. But there you go. Well, they're not too far behind actually.
They're not too far behind, but they're also not chasing with very much venom. It appears that they're riding quite relaxed there. But we'd love to we'll soon get a drone shot, and where we'll be able to see the time gap and put a better estimate to it. You can see the effects of the breeze here, Donald, creating just little breaks and little gaps in the peloton. And that's probably exactly how the break went yesterday, with a little gap formed, and with the breeze it just becomes much more difficult to close.
This is actually the Greenwood area, just to add here. That's where the chasing pack is at the moment. So they are behind these two. Sutherland and Butler. Sutherland in front for the time being from AVR Racing. Butler just right behind him.
They're sharing the work nicely and equally among them.
And that cross breeze now hitting the chasing pack. You see that they're right on the coastline.
At any moment now, the breeze should be changing to from cross to head.
Which is what the leaders are now facing.
Yeah, the leaders are facing, probably facing headwind. You can see it's a slight crosswind. You can see the front there echeloning in, like in a diagonal line towards the left of your screen. So the breeze is coming from the sea and facing them. It's a crosswind hitting them head on. What we call a cross headwind. So it's not coming from directly in front. It's coming a bit diagonal, in front and diagonal of them. It will in a little while change as the sun heats up to straight headwind.
So the chasing pack doing pretty well at the moment, and still the two out front just biding their time.
It appears that they've started Spring Hill here. They look to be climbing, so they may be on the outskirts of Trelawney here, on the outside at the beginning of Spring Hill, first of our climbs. Spring Hill takes us into after Spring Hill we have Duncan's, so this will be the route for tomorrow. Tomorrow, as they get into Duncan's at the top of this hill, they'll do 2 circles. They'll go into the town of Duncan's, uphill, climb into the town of Duncan's and circle Duncan's twice, and then head back to Montego Bay. So that's a preview of what we can expect tomorrow.
We'll see the chasing pack on the right, still biding their time. It's a wonderful low shot by our Joan there. just managing to get the close up there. But yeah, it's an interesting tactic again being taken by the top 2 riders in Sutherland and Butler. But let's see how long they'll be able to keep this up.
Well, they don't seem to be being very actively chased at the moment, so that as long as they're not being chased and the gap is not coming down, they're going to keep riding.
I think it's going to be interesting once they tackle the King of the Mountain stages, because maybe this will break up a little bit more. Maybe the stronger riders will come out to the fore as we see a move being made here.
That may well happen. Do we have a King of the Mountains on the Spring Hill climb? And I may have been a bit previous with the Spring Hill climb, because the Spring Hill climb is a lot longer than I just mentioned, and so it may have been one of the smaller climbs. I apologize for that.
They are approaching Salt Marsh now, actually, the riders.
So they're a little before the Spring Hill climb. The Spring Hill climb is after
Salt Marsh.
Is after Salt Marsh as you enter Duncan's.
So we're what, about 30 minutes into the race now, and still a lot of distance to go in this one.
I think our race race time today, Donald, should be about 2 hours 15 minutes, maybe 2 hours 30, roundabout there for the 87 miles.
Still those two braving the headwind, making their way on the journey. John Butler ahead of Edwin Sutherland. The American ahead of the Bayesian for the time being.
See them fueling up here. They'll go through a lot of food on this race today, Donald. Although it's 2 hours, they'll probably burn about 2,000 calories just on the bike today. So it's important that they keep charging those muscles with gels, and some will eat peanut butter sandwiches, some will eat
just 2,000 calories.
For the 2,000 to 3,000 calories. Yeah, that would be my guess. For the stages of the big race, the European races, those riders are burning, which are about double the distance of this. Those riders are burning about 6,000 to 7,000 calories on the bike. So I would put the estimate at about half of that they'll be burning here today, and they'll be burning a lot more. They'll be expending a lot more water than a European race, because our weather here is a lot different. This is real sun. And we can see the two riders out in front there.
I think they are further up the road. I don't think those are the two riders, actually. I think they are further up the road. Still trying to get a grasp as to where the two riders are, but
you're correct.
They are way up the road. They've actually passed the bend at the top there. So still some way for the chasing pack.
Yeah, but it appears to be, if they are that far in front, I mean, we're looking at over a minute lead so far.
Yeah. The chasing pack just getting on that bend, and still trying to see a shot of the riders out in front. Still unable to spot them on this stretch. If it is 30 seconds, or probably more.
There's the salt marsh. That salt marsh is named after.
Yeah, they really had to think about it.
That was a tough one. Donald, it's amazing how many of our names come from such simple
from the obvious, right?
Yeah.
I think we're probably just getting a glimpse of them. We're just getting a glimpse of the top two, just to see the correlation from where they are to the chasing pack.
I'm still not sure where they are.
And the drone is trying to assist us. Yep. Are they? No, still not in the shot. They are way ahead.
They are way ahead.
They are way ahead.
And if they're still ahead at the turnaround, I see them having a good chance of staying away in the tailwind. It seems like a big distance at the moment, Donald. Could be a minute and a half. That's not an unclosable gap for this pack with the amount of horsepower they have in there and the lack of resources the riders up front have, because they're going to have to be facing the breeze. One of them is going to be on the... They're having to pace 50% of today's breeze.
Exactly. And that could be a concern later on, but how much of a concern is the question that I'd ask, because these riders in the chasing pack are having it, let's say, easier, if not easy.
They are, and they don't seem to be chasing with a full head of steam. You see the pack string out and they chase very hard for a minute or two, and then you see it bundle up again and the chase is called off. So that plays into the hands of the two riders up front, and if the chasing pack continues to ride this way, the gap may grow, and who knows, it may stay out till the end.
Take a look at the chasing pack and where they are. The top two riders passed this location about 2.5 minutes ago. So that could be the difference between the top two and the chasing pack.
It could be. I'd love to get confirmation on that. I'll see if we can get confirmation from the road of what the gap is now. But with the gap that big, and we're approaching the turnaround where we're going to have the two riders up front facing a tailwind going home, you don't want to be chasing a breakaway in a tailwind. It's much easier to close a gap in a headwind than to try and chase in a tailwind where the riders in front of you could be doing upwards of 35 miles an hour on the way home.
Well, here's the shot of the leaders. I reckon that they're probably 3 minutes ahead of the rest of the pack. And they are pretty comfortable at the moment. We're talking about Edwin Sutherland of AVR Racing in second spot, just going into the first spot ahead of John Butler of 706P.
The very brave move, very brave and bold move these two have made. I think they may have been expecting one or two other riders or a few other riders to go with them, join across. It hasn't happened, and they've just decided to keep the fire burning and see what can happen. And if they have a 2.5 minute lead, they got to keep riding their bikes, because that's a good lead, and it's possible they can maintain that if things go their way and the chasing group doesn't organize themselves quickly and properly.
Could you talk about the mechanics of what we hinted at earlier in terms of what these two are facing as opposed to what the chasing pack is facing?
In terms, it's all about aerodynamics here. These two, the rider on the wind is coming into their faces. So they're riding into the wind, and the rider on the front is braking that wind.
I think they're getting ready to pass the Falmouth area.
This might be Spring Hill.
They're
starting to climb now. It could be starting to climb, or it could be the Falmouth exit.
Yes.
We'll have to wait for a better shot to give you a definite on that.
But yeah, you were saying.
So the rider on front is braking the wind, and the rider behind is getting is not facing the wind the rider on the front is facing, because the rider on the front has broken it for him. So it's very difficult for these two. One of them is always in the wind, and the wind wears you down very much quicker than if you're being sheltered. So they're going to be trying to share this workload as evenly as possible. The one on the front working, the other one on the back just coming off of taking a job, and he's getting as much rest as he can for the next 20 seconds or so, and they keep doing that work, recover, and they're trying to trade the workload as best they can. Although they're on separate teams, Donald, they're teammates now because they need to try and stay away, and they'll become adversaries again as they start thinking about the stage win if they're still away at that point.
This is our videographer station at Falmouth, and this is the chasing pack. So again, we've seen where the leaders would have passed this location about 2.5 minutes before, but the chasing pack, I think they want to make a move. I reckon that they'd have to do so soon.
But that was the race leader's jersey on the front. That was Hinnis making the decisions on the front there a while ago. So we still love to get a drone shot and see exactly if we can pick out the gap.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get that one pretty soon, but there's an idea of the chasing pack and the top two well out in front. So they have past the stage that they were yesterday, they would have gone under the bridge and they would have gone back to Rose Hall. But this is the journey to the Garden Parish, the parish of St. Anne, still very much in Trelawney, but they are heading towards Discovery Bay, and that's where the turnaround point will be. These two riding comfortably. I reckon that they're actually not seeing the opposition. That's how far ahead they are. Every once in a while they take a look back to see if they can spot anything.
They're just passing the Glistening Waters exit there, so I think we'll be seeing them start Spring Hill in short order here. And they look like they're working very well together, Donald, so we need to see the chasing group get to work and get to work quickly to bring these guys back. John Butler's signature style of putting his elbows on the handlebar and getting as aerodynamic as he can and as low as he can on the bicycle to cheat the breeze as much as he can.
And what would Sutherland be doing now?
He's stretching.
He's just stretching.
He's trying to stay loose and stay limber. Being on a bike for a few hours with your body fully exerted, you get aches and pains. It's not the most comfortable couch to be on for a few hours. So
that provides relief a little bit.
That provides a little relief.
As opposed to just stopping and sitting on the road.
You get dead blood in spots, especially where you're sitting. So constant stretching, constant moving on the bike every now and then to get the blood moving to areas that are constricted or compressed. You'll see riders doing that a lot. And these guys are going really well here. They are. Considering we're riding into a headwind, they seem to be really making good time.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to take another quick break here from our feed as we continue to take a look at stage 2 of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. It's an interesting race so far, this second stage, and we hope that it gets even more interesting. Stay with us. Welcome back to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic as the riders make their way from Montego Bay, Whitter Village in particular, through Trelawney into the parish of St. Anne, where they'll go to Discovery Bay, and then they'll make the way all the way back to Montego Bay and Whitter Village. The journey about 128 kilometers, and they still have some way to go. We told you about the defending champion and what he did yesterday. He rode brilliantly. Hassani Hennis of AVR Racing to pick up the 23 points after stage one. But now we have to mention what has been taking place in the Masters category, where Kirk Finnegan actually came out on top after stage one. We spoke to him. Let's hear what he had to say yesterday.
It was a really fun race. I love the course. It's nice and flat with a few intervals in there, some rollers, and I can see already that the team is ready to answer to the calls. But more importantly, I see that the field has a lot of fit racers in there, and it means that we really have to pay attention and watch, because the Masters category, it's really the elite that's going to take charge of the race. So you really have to be very observant, watch for the moves, and as best as possible try and present yourself to be there so that you can be a contender when the time comes.
So Edwin Sutherland still leads, and he leads ahead of John Butler, and this is the start of a climb here.
Yep, I would imagine that we're coming to the Spring Hill climb now, if not one of the early little rollers before it. I got communication from one of the convoy vehicles during the break, Donald, and the gap is about 2 kilometers, which would be about 2 to 2.5 minutes to these two riders. I was also informed that the AVR team has gone to the front and put all of their riders there to bring this gap back, which is interesting because they have a rider up front. So they may be trying to defend the chances of Akil, who was second yesterday, and Hinnis, who was first, and try and bring it to a sprint finish today and try and consolidate and expand on the points lead that those two have. It's interesting though that the AVR team is chasing their own rider out front, so they must have a strategic plan to bring this to a field sprint, or to try and bring this to a field sprint to further the lead of one of the two riders that finished in the top of the points yesterday.
Well, yeah, the climbing has begun, and they are working extremely hard up that climb, and we can tell you that Butler is in the lead, and he's just ahead of Sutherland of Barbados. But yeah, they are working hard. There they are, the top two.
Give a little background on the Masters race to our viewers, Donald. The Masters race is a race for those 35 and over, and it's happening concurrently with this race. So the Masters field are riding in this field, and then the best results of that age group are taken. Kirk Finnegan actually came in the top 10 yesterday. He finished 10th. Very good finish from him. And second place was Andy Teixeira, who finished in 12th. So we have some of the masters, some of the older guys finishing with the elite riders.
Yeah, feet just breaking up a little bit as they make their way through Trelawney. But yeah, still the top two. The gap, as you mentioned before, about 2.5 minutes. The gap between the two leaders and the rest of the chasing pack.
That appears to be a recreational rider out front. Let's not confuse him.
I was actually thinking that have they lapped somebody, but no, it's actually a recreational rider.
We don't have a rider that far up the field, so yes, we see a recreational rider on the course here, doing his Saturday morning routine.
Yeah, he may be caught off guard with the cameras shortly, but but yeah, this is one of those steep climbs. They're going to enjoy it on their way back, coming down.
I'm not so sure, Donald, because they have to face it the other side coming up too. They'll enjoy it a little bit than they're enjoying it right now, but they do have to face the backside of this.
That's true.
To come home. And they're making a right, an arc to the right now, and then they'll be approaching the top of this hill, and then they'll be on the descent, which will be a very fast run into Discovery Bay. Although there is a headwind, they seem to be making really good time, so the wind might not be as strong as we expected. And I'm looking at some of the trees in the background here now, and they're not that palm tree we see on the palm tree we see on our other screen here. It's not blustering like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm. But they are working hard, and they themselves will be hoping to try and stretch that gap as they want to have that advantage as they begin their descent. Don't have a shot of the chasing pack as yet, but I reckon as soon as they take on the hill, that the stronger ones will survive, and we'll see more splinters.
Well, we will definitely see. If we see the group come over as one unit behind us, we'll definitely see them splinter on one of the other three hills come before we get home. But being that the chase, from what I'm told, is on in full swing now, we probably are going to see, like you're suspecting, the group split on this small climb when they get here.
So yeah, they're still working hard, still bustling through, getting refreshed.
You see you'll see Butler riding his big chain ring over this hill, and the other rider, he's riding his small chain ring. Different approaches in climbing here. Butler is now gone down to his small chain ring, but he was riding this as a power climb for the most part. He's just switched down to his smaller ring at the top as the grade kicks up a bit.
Describe it in car terms.
Butler would have been clear. We see team management giving some water, so we're approaching the top of the climb now. Usually the feeding happens at the top. Describing that in car terms,
yes.
Butler would have been attacking this climb probably in third or fourth gear. And Sutherland would have been attacking it probably in first or second. They're getting the same result. One of them would be and here, so we have a King of the Mountains obviously on this hill, but otherwise they wouldn't be doing this, and that we see Sutherland has gotten that prize.
Yep.
So Donald, that's going to make it miserable and more fun for us in the studio and you at home to see what happens when the bunch comes over the next one. Because I do believe I've got a bird from in the convoy told me that they believe that this is going to come back. The chase is going to catch these two because the AVR team is putting all riders to the front to bring this back.
I think Sutherland just won an additional $100 with that win.
Very nice. And here we go again. So is this a second sprint?
Well, they're approaching the red flag. And again,
I think here
it is. Sutherland.
So he's gotten it again. I think there may have been an error as to where the finish line was. Error of interpretation before with the finish line. But we have the same result twice. Sutherland picking up the first King of the Mountains.
Butler was here last year. Surely you didn't forget.
Sometimes they move the finish line 100 meters, or you forget.
That's true.
You forget exactly where it was. That's unfortunate that they didn't attack it. Well, it seems like Sutherland got it the first time and got it the second time as well, so no harm, no foul. And they're coming down the other side now. They'll take a few moments rest and then they'll get back to work.
But yeah, the chasing pack is somewhere away.
Well, we'll be able to calculate the time gap of when the chasing pack reaches the King of the Mountains.
Yes.
marker
Yeah.
and compare it to this, and we'll give you a proper time gap when that happens.
But they're now down on the other side of the mountain.
And they'll be trying to get as much information they can on what's happening behind them as well, to know whether they keep riding or they start thinking about surrendering if
But-
the gap keeps coming down.
And I suppose the question is, how would they get that information? We did see earlier where the team leader of 706P came, and I suspect it was a little bit more than encouragement, but to give them ideas to
Yeah.
where they are in the race.
Yeah, the team cars will come up the road, take a mark where their leaders pass them, and then count that gap to the field behind, and then run up the road and give their breakaway riders an update on what the time gaps are. So
And of course-
they do get communications.
And of course, they can't use radio because that's illegal. We figured that out last year when one of the Jamaican cyclists was disqualified for using a radio.
Yes, radios are legal in many races, and not. It depends on the race organizer, and apparently they didn't get the interpretation of the rules clear last year, and one rider was disqualified for using a radio. But this race has no radios this year, and I think that's been clear to everybody this time around. So the time gaps and all the action on the road has to be communicated by vehicle or bystanders on the road.
So the chasing pack beginning to splinter, and they're just now going on the other side of the mountain. That first one, they would have passed.
Are you saying the chasing pack is now descending?
Yes, based on what I'm seeing here, it seems as if they are descending, which I make it that they're still probably just about 2.5 minutes behind.
Just about, by what I wrote down, it's probably about 2 minutes.
Yeah. The leaders seem as if they're beginning another climb based on how they're riding.
There's not much in this climb though. It's probably just a rise, because the next climb is the Braco climb, and I think that's right before Discovery Bay. I think we're a good 4 or 5k from that.
Yeah.
It comes quickly, but it's not here. We're not on it yet. Still looks a little confusing in the chasing pack. It doesn't seem to be very organized, although I'm told that the AVR team is attacking or is chasing these two. We'd love to be able to get some footage of what's happening in that group, because that'll give us some very interesting knowledge as to what might be happening next.
Still relatively bunched together though. They've kind of come back together in one piece, the chasing pack.
That kind of communicates to us that the chase is not on at full speed, or the chase is a little confused or a little disjointed, which plays into the favor of these guys out front. So let's see, 2.5 minutes gap, you just got to keep riding. It's not a huge gap, it's 2.5 minutes can be closed in 20k, 30k. So I wouldn't say these riders are away yet, but the disorganization in what we're seeing behind definitely gives them encouragement to keep riding.
Is it a little disheartening? I know that they're together as a group, so, be encouraged and all that, but is it a little bit disheartening that you're in a chasing pack and you can't see the leaders?
Absolutely, out of sight, out of mind. Once they get on a stretch of road where you can see the leaders or the cars that are following the leaders, it gives you a lot of encouragement. Gives you energy to start chasing them with more intent. When you're not seeing them, the opposite happens. You don't know whether they're around the next corner or around the next 5 corners. So it's an out of sight, out of mind thing where seeing them gives you energy, not seeing them kind of discourages you a bit.
Yeah, and based on the shot we're seeing on the left. They are well out in front. A gap of 2.5 minutes, you'd have to see almost like a 3-kilometer stretch, and it's almost impossible to catch that in one shot.
Where we have the feeding zone. The riders taking on food, water, change of bottles.
Again, we can take
gels.
note of the time here. 1 hour, 3 minutes, 45 seconds when they reach that stage. And let's look at the chasing pack to see how far they are behind that point. But they may still have at least another couple of minutes to go. They're passing Duncan's, by the way.
Butler looked like he was asking Sutherland if he's going to share his lunch. Butler didn't get quite such an extensive lunch kit.
Wonder if they can afford to eat anything spicy on the road.
I think that's what Butler is saying. No time for lunch. Let's get going.
He actually refused.
Yeah.
Said, no, I'm fine. Does it have mayonnaise? Maybe not.
I think Butler just wants to get on with it, and he feels he has enough energy from what he got before. He was probably refueled. We saw his team car parked at the top of the climb, and he probably got a gel and a goo and a bar and some water.
Well, to be fair, Sutherland, he has money to spend after winning a couple of the stages in the King of the Mountain. So
Sure does. Sure
so
does.
a free meal wouldn't be costing him a lot. That's just to add.
I do think Butler is getting a little frustrated here that they don't ride on. And what we could be seeing here is that the AVR team has decided that they could have sent a message to Sutherland, hey, stop riding because we want to catch you. Team instructions are that Hennis and Akil we should try and work for these riders to have them consolidate their lead at the top of the point standings. So it could be team instructions why we see Sutherland sit up, or it could just be that he is assimilating his lunch and packing that away.
Again,
But Butler certainly seems a little disgruntled that he's taking such time over lunch.
well, Sutherland is taking his time, biding his time. Still very much close to Butler though, so Butler hasn't made a move to try and keep up the pace or to go extend himself a bit further.
Butler knows there's no point to that, because if he goes up the road and leaves Sutherland behind, he'll have no rest. He won't have the advantage of resting and recovering behind Sutherland.
So
and
he
sharing
may be
the work.
disgruntled, but he still has to stick together with
The
Sutherland.
best option is still to stick with him and say, hey, let's get back to work shortly, because he won't be able to hold. He'll exhaust himself a lot more if he's out there without having Sutherland to trade the work with him and give him some rest and recovery.
So Sutherland is in the driving seat along with AVR Racing, you think? For now.
Well, Sutherland's team is chasing. I'm told is chasing this, and they want to bring back this break, which includes their teammate. So he may have gotten instructions from his team car to stop working so hard or stop sharing the work as much with Butler. I'm not sure that's exactly what's been communicated, but that could be happening.
All right, we're up on another break. We're gonna break to make some money here at the Home of Champions. When we return, we'll see the remainder of this trek to Discovery Bay before they make the turnaround. Stay with us. Jerome Forrest finished 7th. And of course, Edwin Sutherland, who is part of the top 2 here, finished in 8th spot at the end of stage 1. As far as 706P are concerned, Chad Conley finished in 4th spot, picked up 8 points. Andis Carano finished in 5th place and picked up 6 points in the process. John Butler, who is a part of the top 2 right now from 706P, actually finished in 28th position and didn't get any points for his efforts, but still in the top 2 with the chasing pack now almost right there, right on their doorstep.
If Donald Scarano wants to retain his title this year, he's going to need to win one of these stages, I think. I don't think he's going to be able to win this on average and have the highest points tally at the end of the 3 days unless he wins a stage outright. So he's got his work cut out for him to repeat. And I think if one of the top 2 from yesterday end up in the top 2 today or tomorrow, they have a good chance of winning the overall here as well. And that may be what that should be what the AVR team is playing into. One of their top 2 riders from yesterday winning or coming second again today would put them in a very, very strong position to take the title. Because this race, Donald, is and for you at home, is a race on a points race. Whoever has the most points at the end of the race, at the end of the 3 days, wins the race. He and that person may or may not have won any particular day. They just have the most points by being the most consistent finisher. Of course, winning a stage gives you the most points.
Of course, they would have just passed Bengal Beach. The shot that you saw was a beautiful shot of the area at Bengal Beach and Rio Bueno Beach as well.
So they'd be getting taking a slight right turn and heading onto the Queen's Highway, which is a long drag of about 2 miles, and then taking the roundabout there and heading back where we came from. You can see the long stretch of the Queen's Highway with that right turn we're talking about, and then it's about another mile or 2 from there to the turnaround. And the return leg, Donald, is going to be fast because we'll have the breeze at our back. Probably be about 20 minutes faster than the leg that went out.
The top 2 riders just passing Coconut Lagoon as well, and we're entering into more resort areas, so to speak. You're going to be seeing a lot of hotels and Airbnbs.
A lot of beautiful rental villas as well. Discovery Bay is so named because it said that that's where Columbus and his crew first landed when they came to Jamaica in 1492. I don't want to use the word discovered because
it was always there.
There were people here before them, but that's Discovery Bay is where they first touched ground.
As we take a look at Columbus Park, which is in and around that area, again, just wonderful. The scenery, the beauty of it all, the waters there, and a lot of divers usually ply their trade along this coastline. There's been some complaints about the coral reefs dying out, but the waters here just absolutely beautiful.
Really stunning.
Jamaica on the north coast, just wonderful to look at. And
there we see the traffic, part of it the convoy, part of it traffic waiting to get by.
Yeah, just wonderful scene so far along this route as the riders head to Discovery Bay. They're going to be turning around there in short order, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we return, we'll have a lot more action from the riders as the chasing pack, they try to close the gap, and they are closing the gap as they head towards Discovery Bay. to the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. We're almost halfway there on this second stage, as the riders are going to be making their way right at the turn in short order, and there is going to be a huge sigh of relief knowing where they are. But I can tell you Kynan, that the chasing pack is not too far behind, and the riders are going to be making the turn right at this interval.
That's correct, Donald. I was told during the break that the gap has shrunk to a minute or slightly under a minute. So I think we're going to see that these two get caught or joined by other riders, and I believe we're going to see the whole pack come back together, because AVR want that, and they've been working to bring this pack back together. We can see from yesterday's action that their lead-out man won the sprint.
Yep.
He wasn't supposed to win the sprint. He was leading out his teammate Akil and ended up winning. So they're clearly the strongest sprinters in the bunch.
They're going to pass the chasing pack now. There they are. There's the bunch on the right of your screen. They are going to be going towards the turnaround point. I count about 25 seconds there.
I would put it that's definitely about right.
Yep.
Certainly well under a minute.
So just to give you an indication of where they are now, so they are past the midway point, and they have made that turn, and they are going now in the opposite direction, and they're going to be making their way all the way back to Witter Village in Montego Bay. And again, the journey of 128 kilometers, they are halfway there, and you reckon that it's easier on this back stretch?
It's easier on this back stretch for the most part. The race is going to explode. It's probably going to come back together right before the foot of the Braco Hill, which is about 5 k's from the turnaround, and it's going to explode there again. We're going to see a completely different script once we go over. And here we look at the start of the Braco Hill here. It's going to be a completely different script once we get over the top of this hill, and let's see what's left when that happens. But I do expect that these two will be caught before the top of the Braco Hill.
John Butler still ahead. Edwin Sutherland right behind him. And these two, they've had the company of each other for well over an hour now. And I suspect that in short order, they'll have additional company, and maybe they won't see each other for a while. Let's see the race strategy as we head into the second half of this race. You said that the second half of this race is going to be a lot quicker. Initially, you reckon that we might clock about 2 hours and 50 minutes or close to 3 hours on this stage. And if that remains the same still, this second half is going to be really quick.
I had said about 2.5 hours. And I think we're probably there about maybe a little quicker than 2.5 hours.
You're for real?
I think they'll be back in Montego Bay before 2.5 hours. This leg back is going to be real quick. I think I'm exaggerating a bit. They'll probably do under 2:45. Possibly. They'll do under 2.5 hours. Sorry, I'm getting my calculations all mixed up. So it'll be between 2 hours and 2.5.
So the return leg should take about an hour, as opposed to the hour and a half.
That's my estimate. It'll take about an hour and a bit, hour and 10.
Okay. Well, they're just passing where they had just gone by as they were heading up towards the Discovery Bay area at the turnaround. And now it's just a matter of going in the opposite direction. And unfortunately unable to enjoy the scenery, but just the road ahead.
And I think we're at the foot of the Braco Hill now. They're just entering Trelawney, and this is the start of the Braco Hill. So I think we'll see the group coming back on them on this hill. And I think we'll see a new script from Braco for the rest of the way home. This hill is about 2 kilometers long. It's a very, very nasty hill. If you're riding this hill alone on a training ride, it's a very pleasant hill. If you're riding this hill at about 22 miles an hour down to about 18 miles an hour, which is what these guys will be averaging, it's brutal.
There's a chasing pack.
And there's the hill right to the right of your picture. So it looks like the leading two have started the hill, and the chase group is a little behind. So we may have about 40 seconds here. But I still believe it will all come back together, or they'll be joined by more riders at the top of on this hill or at the top of the hill. And Donald, if you don't get over this hill in contact with the race leaders, we can largely predict that your day is over.
Really?
Yeah.
The winners would come from the two.
I think the winners will come from whoever goes over this hill. If these two are ahead over the hill, I don't see them having much energy left to pull this home ahead of the rest of the field. But of the rest of the field, whoever comes over this hill in the top 10, if there's a gap of more than 100 meters, I don't see that being closed until before Montego Bay. So you need to be at the top of this hill. You need to be in contact or very close to the leaders, or you're not going to catch them back.
I am a little bit surprised that it has stretched since the turnaround, though.
It may have been camera angle and a little bit of delay, but
no, we counted it, and I reckon it's more than 30 seconds now.
And here we're approaching the top, and looks like we have another King of the Mountains, and Sutherland said he wants that one too.
Edwin knows where to find them.
He knows. Looks like he caught Butler unawares again, because
Butler was supposed to have been getting some refreshments there, and Sutherland decided to just pull away for the stage.
A bit of a strange rule they have, that feeding has to happen on these two climbs, yet that's where two of the King of the Mountains are, and it seems a little contradictory, those two goals, feeding and battling for King of the Mountains.
Which one is more important, US dollars or having something to eat?
Depends on your priorities.
Okay, there you go. You can eat later.
Yeah, correct.
Priorities. Oh, is he out now? Out alone now?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to stay out alone. I don't think there's any way that he can finish this race alone and win. If he does, it'll be one of the rides of his career.
Yeah, so there's a chasing pack.
So the chasing pack have about another 400 meters around that corner is a summit. So they're still a good little ways back. But I do see them bringing these two back. And we still have quite a compact group going over this hill. I'm expecting to see it get a little more destroyed in the next 500 meters.
Oh yeah.
And you can see the gaps starting to open here.
Yep. The fittest will survive.
That looks like Scorano near to the front. They're trying to make a split. Can you see the front two?
No, he's out of the shot. He's already made that right turn. He's actually making the left turn, and that left turn is actually out of shot for us on this drone. So there he is. He's making that left turn now. Is Sutherland, and that's way out in front.
So it would appear that the gap has opened again.
Yes, it has. And he's enjoying the little descent, not even pedaling too hard. He's just in cruise control at the moment. Is Edwin Sutherland out of Barbados? And can he stretch this lead? Can he take advantage having this momentum now?
It will be a phenomenal ride if he stays out to the end of this. It's possible, but highly unlikely in my opinion.
Well, let's see. It's turning out to be an interesting story, and this chapter looks fascinating already.
It'll be an exciting mouse chase if he stays out there, because he's definitely the mouse against cats here.
Yeah, he just made that decision to just leave John Butler, and can't even decipher where Butler is in the thick of things at the moment, but he's obviously some distance behind, still way in front of the chasing pack.
I wouldn't think he's too far behind, but we can't tell. He may have. It's possible he sat up to wait for the group and surrendered, or it's possible that he's not too far behind Sutherland here. But we'll need a drone shot to get the truth on that one.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have much more action from the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. Stay with us. welcome back to the Jamaica International Cycling Classic as we take a look at the riders on this stage 2, covering 128 kilometers from Whitter Village to Discovery Bay and back to Whitter Village, and along the way some scenic routes we have seen here on the north coast. This stage 2 has been quite interesting so far, Kainan, because of these two and what they did in breaking away. We're talking about Edwin Sutherland, almost called him Kiefer Sutherland, not quite the movie star, but he is the star of this stage so far. He and John Butler, they really came out to play on this second stage and broke away from the pack and maintained it for much of the way they did.
Yep, and Sutherland is still out there. We saw at the return leg of the King of the Mountains that he put an attack down on Butler, and it looks like he's dropped Butler, and he's out there on his own now.
But them breaking away, we knew that it was always going to be difficult because they weren't in a concise pack, so to speak, or a concentrated pack, but them being out there, they really braved the conditions and went out there. Of course, in the end though, Sutherland is the one who is out on top because he has got rid of Butler in the process.
Yeah, let's see if he has the minerals to hold off the whole chasing pack. Somehow I don't think so, but he's got to think that he can't stop riding until they catch him.
Well, in the chasing pack is the champion of the first stage, Hassani Hennis. He's also of AVR Racing. His teammate is out in front at the moment, Edwin Sutherland from AVR Racing. Edwin would have picked up 3 points after yesterday's first stage, this after finishing in 8th spot. But Hassani Hennis would have picked up maximum 23 points after stage 1. And he spoke with us after the end of the day, just basically speaking about his race strategy.
Obviously, I'm guest riding for AVR Racing, and the strategy today was Achille to be the GC, and it turns out to be me, and no problem, one team. But today's strategy was to ride more on the defense, which is it didn't turn out that way. We went on our offense and did what we had to do, make the break, and we pushed the break throughout the whole race. And coming down to the finish, I let it out, and nobody couldn't hold my wheel. So my teammate stayed behind the guy that couldn't hold my wheel, let the gap open, and jump him to the line. That's how we got 1-2 today.
Yep, so these two held their own for the majority of the time together, even as they were approaching Discovery Bay. And again, they just had a lot of work to do earlier today. And Butler and Sutherland took up much of the struggle, didn't they? But we're hearing now that they're approaching the Duncan's area, and as we move away from what happened earlier today and go to the live shot of what's happening at Duncan's, we realize that Sutherland is actually all alone here, still trying to decipher how far he is ahead of the chasing pack, but he's out on his own, sitting pretty comfortably.
And being that he's in Duncan's now, Donald, he will have completed both climbs of the day, and it's nothing but smooth roads back to Montego Bay with the very small rises here and there. So he's got tailwind and nothing but a straight shot home, and he's going to be giving it his all to try and hold off the field behind him. And it will be a major accomplishment if he stays away from them.
I think that would be just incredible if he manages to hold off all comers here on the back end of this stage 2, the Jamaica Cycling Classic. And again, looking pretty comfortable, looking to be in cruise control here, not under any pressure. And right now he wouldn't know anyone who is, or wouldn't be able to see anyone behind him. Just getting the right nutrients as well. As they prepare for this stage, my question to you would be, how would they have prepared in terms of nutrition and eating? Like, how many hours before would they have had Well, I don't even know if you don't want to call it breakfast, but had something to eat before.
Because of the 7:30 start, they would have probably had eaten breakfast around 6 o'clock.
Right?
And they probably, with the late start, some of them might have had because that half an hour delay changes their whole preparation in terms of diet
Right.
and everything. So they'd probably start probably 20 minutes, half an hour into the race to start to eat again.
What would they have had for breakfast, or what would be the best thing for them? Are you talking about greens? You're talking about eggs? You're talking about plantains? What are you talking
It's
here?
all personal preferences. You have riders that swear that they need a high protein diet, lots of meat,
For breakfast?
bacon, eggs. Other riders that are riding with less meat. It's just a personal preference of diet.
Oh, so it doesn't matter how many calories you intake? Because if you're training and you're pushed by a trainer, they're going to say, well, you need to eat all these 6 eggs or whatever.
Maybe if the teams have doctors and nutritionists,
Right.
which I don't think these teams have, they probably know what works for them and what doesn't.
What would have worked for you?
I
Don't say 2 eggs.
no cereal.
Okay.
I would have eaten a lot of cereal.
Really? Cornflakes?
Cereal.
You'd have taken a chance?
No, granola cereal.
okay.
High grain cereals.
Okay, got it.
And rice milk, no dairy, just to keep the stomach light.
Of course.
And then constant eating of fruits and bars and bananas throughout the race. Sometimes you got to be careful with bananas because they can create movements that you don't want.
Yes.
So sometimes they work, sometimes they just go against you. But bananas are very good energy on a bike if they don't go the wrong way.
If they don't go the wrong way. Yes, of course. But Sutherland seems to be going in the right direction at the moment, although he's all alone.
Yeah, we need to see where the group is relative to him to be able to see what his chances are or how confident he should be at this point. But he's certainly not surrendering and he's giving it his all.
Yeah, he is pushing. Going downhill at the moment and looking relatively comfortable is Edwin Sutherland of Barbados, and really making his intentions known, not giving up, not holding back even as he makes his way downhill.
There he is passing the second Duncan entrance now,
Yeah.
the second exit.
So tomorrow they'd actually be making that left turn here in the community.
Correct, and they'll be doing 2 loops of that, going into the town of Duncans, coming back onto the highway,
Going back into the town.
back into the town, and then back out and home. It's not easy.
To say the least.
Those 2 little circles of Duncans are real rippers.
But it's usually a sleepy town, Duncans, and we'll take a look at them tomorrow, or look at it tomorrow. Really quiet town in Trelawney, and it has history there. A lot of old buildings there as well, but just a wonderful, quiet place to be, and the cyclists will, I'm sure, love it. But Edwin Sutherland is the race leader. Sutherland, out of Barbados, has done relatively well up to this point.
Yeah, he's been out for what I would imagine is close to 80k now. He and Butler have been out front, and now him on his own.
Still taking a glimpse just to see if he can spot anyone. He's not seeing anyone. And I'm sure in a sense it's a little bit unnerving, even as the leader. I'm sure it's definitely unnerving for those behind him, but for him as the leader, he wouldn't have any indication, not yet anyway, as to what kind of lead he holds.
He may be getting some time gaps. He may even get a time gap from the vehicle ahead of him just now. They may have shouted at a time gap to him, but he's not going to know for sure.
Right.
But he'll be encouraged by these roads with the tailwind behind him, and they're being, for the most part, flat, and he'll be trying to make the best of it and get what little rest and recovery he can on the slight declines, resting those legs for 3 or 4 pedal strokes at a time and getting back to it. It's on one of those gentle grades now, but
Yeah.
there's nothing left here that's more than 300-400 meters in terms of slight grades. So
Yeah.
it's largely pancake flat.
Yeah, we're talking about just like 2% here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another one coming up, but not too demanding on the legs, I don't think.
No, it's not. It's just not. No, all the power climbs for the day, or the major climbs for the day, are over.
So, AVR Racing representing in no uncertain terms here at the Jamaica International Cycling Classic, and another one of their riders out in front and comfortable. We're talking about Edwin Sutherland out of Barbados, standing alone, riding alone for the time being.
I'm getting the feeling, Donald, just by watching how regularly he's eating, that he's worried about his energy levels as well. He may be feeling a bit of fatigue setting in, and he's trying to just kill it with food. There's 3 bars in a row like he's eating now. Lets me know that I think he's having doubts about his energy level and trying to eat as much food as he can. And you see him there holding his hamstring. It looks like he might be suffering a bit of cramp too. Can't blame him, because this circuit is hot.
But he's trying to push through.
Oh, he's got to push through, and he will. But the running out of fuel on the road, when you've started to hit the wall and started to run out of reserves, you can eat all the food you want. It takes about 15-20 minutes for that food to actually hit you and give you the recovery you need. So if you wait to eat too late, which hopefully that's not what Sutherland has done here, it can be game over.
We're getting a glimpse of the chasing pack.
Can we see the leader in that? Oh, just missed. We don't know whether they're seeing him or whether they're not.
We're going to see a shot shortly from our drone that will show a gap. Whether it's a massive gap, we're not sure. But I actually think it's quite a huge one. But again, he's riding comfortably and getting cooled down in the process as well. So the chasing pack right there, and it is a widening gap.
It looks like about 30-40 seconds to, as far as we can see. We don't know how far ahead of that Sutherland is,
Right.
but it looks to be about 30 seconds to the extent of what we can to the edge of our screen, and we're not seeing Sutherland in that gap. So he is certainly more than 30-40 seconds ahead.
Oh yeah. So they're going to be, the rest of the chasing pack, they're going to be going all the way up to the top of that grade. He's already going down the other side of that grade, and he begun that descent about at least 30 seconds ago. So again, there's a bit of a gap. Really a sense of drama here as he's being hunted.
Well, AVR, his team can take 2 approaches to this now, Donald. They can leave him out there to win. It looks like he has a big enough gap that if AVR steps off of the gas, it's down to the 706 team and the Cayman teams to close this gap by themselves. And if they don't close it and Sutherland wins, they now have 3 riders with 2 riders with 23 points and a rider with 17 points. And if we add to that Hassani or Akil getting a second or a third place today, they could have a rider with 40 points, a rider from today with 23 points, and a rider from yesterday with 17 points. That puts them in a golden position to think that they have every chance of winning this tomorrow, the general classification race tomorrow. So they have many cards to play. I don't think they're too worried about what to do today. I think it's up to the other teams to do something to keep themselves in this race, because AVR have certainly dominated and have all the answers to whatever questions may be asked, is the way it seems as we sit.
Yep, they're making their way on this road, on this stretch, and the gap is a big one. Sutherland out in front. We also hope to get additional information on who is in charge of the chasing pack, but at the moment Sutherland is looking around, checking his surroundings, just making sure that everything is in order. But what we're going to do is that we're going to take another quick break here from our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic, and when we return we'll have more action on this second half of this second stage here. Well, we can tell you that a move has been made, and the chasing pack, they have caught up with Edwin Sutherland, and Brighton John in particular has entered the chat. Brighton John out of Guyana, who finished third on yesterday's stage one, picked up 12 points, has closed the gap significantly on Sutherland, and he's about to overtake him. As we go to that shot now with Sutherland being overtaken by Brighton John.
So we've had Brighton John bridging across the gap to Sutherland, and it's interesting to see now if they're gonna work together, and interesting to see how far behind them the chasing pack is. But Brighton John jumped out of that chasing pack like a scalded rabbit, and he's across to Sutherland now. And let's see what the gap is, whether these two think it's worthwhile to stay out there and try and hold off the field. Very interesting to know if Brighton jumped out of the pack and rode across alone, or if the pack came and closed the gap and he jumped across the last few meters. We'll wait for better footage for a better angle on that and tell you what's happening there. But we can tell you that Brighton John has now joined Sutherland, and the two of them are at the head of affairs. And we can see them there. Have about a 300-meter gap on the peloton. So if they stay organized, it's up to the peloton to close that gap.
And there they are passing the Falmouth area, in fact.
In fact, that's not far from William Knibb High School.
Yep.
I think we saw the football field of William Knibb was right off to the left there.
So we'll get a good indication of the chasing pack in short order to see how long they'll take to actually pass our station. There they are in the chasing pack. They're just a few seconds behind, in fact.
Yeah, they're about
just getting by Falmouth.
I would put that at about 20 seconds. So
yeah.
It still looks like we're going to have the group come back together. I don't see the group not closing the gap on these two. Especially the 706 team. They're going to feel left out of this, and they're going to have to get to the front and do some work. And they're not going to have the efforts of John Butler, who spent his matches earlier in the race, and he's not going to have much left to offer. He did a fantastic job of staying out there most of the day. But the onus now is going to be on the 2K man teams and the 706 team to get a rider across here.
So Brighton John out of Guyana, and Edwin Sutherland out of Barbados, the top two at the moment. The chasing pack about 20-25 seconds behind.
Here we have the riders clearing the Falmouth exit.
I wonder if there were, I think there were probably 3 groups, with this just being the 3rd group that's coming up.
I would guess that this is the main pack, the 2nd group. That would be my guess, because this has a lot. I would guess this is the main group here.
We must have seen some recreational riders after the first group then.
Possibly. I'm not seeing many of the 706 riders, so you might be right, Donald. This may be the 3rd group on the road. Because I'm not seeing any of the 706 riders, and we surely see Scorano in this group if it were the 2nd group.
Yeah, I do believe that it's actually the 3rd group, and traffic is building up as usually is at this time of the day in Falmouth. But yeah, they are just about going by the Falmouth exit.
He's put in a fantastic shift today, Sutherland has.
You're right, he has. Will he have the strength though to hold on and to stay up with Brighton John, who surely would have exerted a lot of energy to break away from the pack and to join him.
Well, that's a good question, Donald, because my guess would have been that he'd have been caught a long time ago and he's still out there. So that shows how correct I am in this situation, or how strong Sutherland has been today.
Yeah, but it's still just the two of them out front, John and Sutherland.
And there we have one of the 706 riders caught in no man's land.
Yeah, that's Peter Thompson.
He's
Just
a Portland chap, a
Yep.
very, very fine young rider.
And these are the top two, John, Sutherland. It's a Caribbean affair in Jamaica, as John just making an impact here out of Guyana.
See another one of our Masters riders there. It looks like Sean Jeffries getting tailed off of one of the main packs there. He's close enough to home to just carry this one home.
Brighton John having some fun there, having words with our videographer, but obviously getting some additional airtime. Brighton John having caught up with Edwin Sutherland. So the top two there, John and Sutherland.
And they're not very far from home now, Donald. I think maybe they have 20k to go.
Well, based on your calculation, you're thinking that they were going to clock on the 2 hours and 45?
Oh, here we go. Grupo Compacto. Everybody's back together.
Wow. And just like that.
And the group has shrunk. It looks like this is now the main group, and that big group we saw earlier is in fact the second group.
Yep.
And this is a splinter breakaway group. And it looks like they've spat Brighton John straight out the back. He's going to need to do a little interval here and get himself back into contact. I'd hate to see him spend so much effort to get all the way out there.
Well, I guess that's the point. He spent a lot of effort in getting out there.
He did. And it's a little rise here, so let's hope he has the legs to hold on to this group and still have a say in what's going to happen today. So in this group we can see Scarano, and we can see that looks like John Butler with him.
Well, Butler would have done well.
No, Butler would have, but no, that may be John Butler or Brandon. There have three. We have Chad.
No, Butler is actually there.
Chad Conley, Butler, and Andy Scarano.
Yep.
And we have. It's interesting to see who these two. We have Akil Campbell still there, and we have. It looks like Hassani Hennis is still there.
Had to be there. Had to be there.
Sorry, I think we have that number wrong. That's Andrew Ramsey is there. I would imagine that Hassani Ennis should be there or thereabouts. Maybe we'll see him bridge onto this group before long. But we have here Akil Campbell and Andrew Ramsey. Andrew Ramsey incidentally won the field sprint for 5th yesterday. Sorry. Jerome Forrest won the field sprint for 6th yesterday. Andrew Ramsey finished in between the leading group of 5 and the field sprint yesterday.
So Akil Campbell, he's second from bottom in this lead pack. Trying to identify the other numbers.
We didn't recognize Akil Campbell because he's wearing the race leader's jersey and he's on the front.
You mean
He's in-
Asani? Asani.
Asani.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is wearing the race leader's jersey and he's not in his uniform. We saw him
there
in
you go.
yesterday. So he's very much in this group.
Yeah, anything else would have been uncivilized. And it would have been a tad surprising, actually, if he wasn't in that group.
Yeah,
So
he
he's
looked
very
a-
much in the running to actually winning the second consecutive stage here.
Yeah, he looked to have super legs yesterday. It would be very surprising to see him not in the final reckoning today. But kudos to the 706 team. They have 3 riders in this group, as do the AVR team again. They have 3 riders in this group. And as per yesterday, 1 lone rider from the Cayman Unity team, Sir Brighton John. And we saw him pull out a podium finish yesterday, so let's see what he can do, although he did look a little spent a while ago, getting dropped from this group briefly.
So yeah, it's an interesting bunch that involves Akil Campbell, Edwin Sutherland, Hassani Hennis, Andy Scarano, John Butler, and Chad Conley. And what a bunch here as they continue their trek on stage 2 of this Jamaica Cycling Classic. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll continue with more coverage on the other side of it. Welcome back to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic 2023 as we take a look at the happenings here en route, and we're going to see, well, we are seeing the top two away from the rest of the pack, the rest of the leading pack. Yep.
That looks like Chad Conley and
Asani Hennis.
Yep. Putting a little distance between themselves, putting a test to the group, and it looks like the group has said, we're not going to give you too much room here. We know that you guys can do some damage if we let you go too far.
Yep, Hennis of course wearing the yellow jersey after winning stage 1, the Anguillan, and I think he pretty much surprised the field yesterday as part of that sprint. And I think the rest of the field would have learned their lesson in not allowing him to have his own way. But he didn't take a lot of the spotlight in the early stages here.
And he looks committed to trying to ride away from this crew. You have him, Chad Conley and himself, putting some distance between themselves and the group, asking a question the second time. Let's see, he's going to make them come across again. But they're certainly adding some pressure to this group, and I think this might be the tactics of the 706P team to keep putting interval attacks on this group to wear down the likes of Hennis and Campbell and Sutherland. I think we've seen Brighton John looking a little worn already. I don't think he's having his best day at the moment. But if he's lucky, he'll get to take some shelter and some rest in this, have a goo or a drink, and try find some energy for the finale, which is not too far away.
It's very difficult to take a catch while you're riding at such pace, and you see them trying to get the water bottles, and it's most times difficult to do so.
Yep, sometimes you miss and you leave the feed zone, you end up with nothing. You have to beg a little water from some of your competitors, and they're often willing to share. But that's Brighton John's familiar position on the back for the last few. I just have a feeling he's struggling with himself to stay connected at the moment, which often happens, and sometimes you get a recovery and you get some legs back for the finish, sometimes you don't.
This is the Masters category that's going on now, and yeah, they're just about getting out of the Falmouth area.
This group looks like they're the leaders passed here about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You have another Cayman rider making his lonely way.
Yeah, but back to the front here, and still very much an interesting race going on. This is a leading pack. You see the yellow jersey, that's Asani Hennis out of Anguilla, right in the middle there. Brighton John making up the rear of this group.
And Brighton John is doing exactly the right thing. He's a little more spent than the rest of these guys, and he's also there alone. He's the only member of his team in this group, so his role is going to be here. Guys, I'm just going to hang on to this group. You guys do the work. You guys have 3 members each. I'm not going to be working. I'm just going to be hanging on.
Sutherland is still there, by the way, and you can see the Americans right behind the two of them.
And Sutherland back on the front. You'd think that he'd had enough hours on the front, but there he is again, back on the front. He seems to have a lot of gas in the tank today.
Yeah, he was reeled in pretty quickly, was Edwin Sutherland, but he's done really well to still be in that pack with the likes of...
And look at who we have out front again. Sutherland and John
Butler.
Sutherland and John Butler again. They just can't get enough of the front, can they?
No, they cannot. And they seem to enjoy each other's company very well too. They're just about to go on the Iberia Star stretch, these cyclists.
And they're starting to play chess now, to try the 3 against 3 here, with one odd one being Brighton John. And you can see them starting to play chess and try to figure out how they're going to tactically win this. And there we have Scarano trying to do something up the right side, and he's quickly answered by Hassani. Hassani is not going to give the likes of Scarano any room. I think they're probably two of the strongest riders in this race.
Well,
it's entirely possible that they that these four get away and stay away. Certainly don't see Scarano and Hassani cutting the pace from here on, and I think they're going to push this pace to the line. And Ramsey's going to have to do quite an effort to get across to these guys. I think he realizes that Chad Conley is not going to take him across. He's going to have to do it all on his own. And if I was Butler here, if I was Sutherland here, I wouldn't be on Brighton John's wheel at the moment, because he's shown that he's not as strong as the rest of these guys. I would be going around him and getting across to Hassani and Andy Scarano as immediately. I wouldn't leave it to Brighton John to take me back across. But he seems to have gambled it, and it seems to have worked.
Yeah.
Just showing you the determination of Brighton John there. He's probably the most tired man in this bunch, and he's not letting them go. He's hanging on with it for everything he's got. And I think we'll see Andrew Ramsey make his way back onto this, because they've sat up for a brief moment. And here we go.
There is Andrew Ramsey.
And here we have Chad Conley putting in a counter attack. So it seems like the 786 team are just going to punch and counter punch and punch and counter punch and see if they can drop the rest of these riders. They clearly want to win today's stage, and they clearly need to if they want to stay in the runnings for the overall prize at the end of tomorrow.
They're near Lilliput, and see the top two there, Chad Conley and Edwin Sutherland.
Edwin Sutherland is in everything that goes off the front today. Looks like he's feeling really good today. He's been out front alone for probably 80k, himself and John Butler, and he's covering every move himself. Seems like he's on a really good day today.
And there's the leader, Hassani Hennis, joining the top two. Wasn't denied once, doesn't want to be denied here.
I think the 786 team want to find a way to win this race, and I think their best chance is Andy Scarano, but I don't think Scarano has the sprint that Hassani Ennis has, and that Andrew Ramsey may have. So that's why they're punching and counter punching to try and soften these guys up and maybe get away in the last few kilometers. And there they go again. Scarano and Hassani Ennis.
Yeah, the defending champion against the winner of stage one. And many anticipated that this could be the matchup here between the Anguillan and the American. Scarano just checking what's behind. Right now, it's the Anguillan, then Brighton John of Guyana, and young Sutherland right there as well.
And none of these riders want to get dropped here. One or two of them may have to sacrifice themselves towards the end for their team leader, but none of them want to get left behind here.
And then a pull now from Akil Campbell. Wonderful move there from Campbell out of Trinidad and Tobago to now take the lead.
This is wonderful stuff, Donald. This group there's attack after attack after attack. I don't think any of these guys want to come down to a sprint. I think they're all going for it here. And if it does come down to a sprint, I think it's going to be a pretty tired sprint, because these guys are putting everything into this here.
I think that's Conley who is ahead. Hennis right behind him.
We are not very far from the finish now as well. We're not on that confusing road where everything looks the same. We're probably about 5k or less from the finish. give or take a kilometer. But we're approaching the finish here, and I think that's why we're seeing the attacks coming thick and fast.
So Scarano just calling up his teammate to
And Conley
hold the attack.
Conley winding one up again, and Ramsey looks like he's covering.
Yeah, Hennis though is trying to keep up as well. That's another, well, it could have been another deadly move. Just try and wipe out the legs of their competitors, but everyone's still pretty much close to each other. No one is letting up.
And we just passed the conference center, and we remember passing that yesterday and how close we were to the finish from then. So I think we have another, what would you say, Donald, 4 or 5 minutes of this?
Maybe. He did play to a T yesterday, did Hassani Hennis.
Hassani Hennis yesterday had a really good sprint, and he wasn't supposed to be the sprinter. He was leading his rider Akil Campbell to the line, and ended up creating a big enough gap between himself and Campbell that he took the sprint, and Campbell then jumping Brighton John for third place.
Chad Conley in front, Hassani Hennis behind, Brighton John in third at the moment, Edwin Sutherland in fourth, Akil Campbell right behind, Andy Scarano, the defending champion, number 41, second to last in this bunch, and right behind Scarano is John Butler. It's anybody's race still.
I'd have to give the advantage in a sprint here to one of the AVR team. Hennis, and if they said they were working for Akil Campbell yesterday for the stage win, I would think he's got a handy sprint on him. And knowing from my years of racing with Andrew Ramsey, he's quite a tidy sprinter in his own right. So we have 3 strong sprinters there. We saw yesterday that Chad Butler didn't really have it when it came down to the sprint. I think he was pulling a lot to keep the break going for Scarano. So let's see, maybe Butler will surprise us with a sprint of his own. But I think the AVR team definitely appears to me to have the stronger sprinters in this if it comes down to a sprint.
Hennis knows that he's comfortable now, having clocked the maximum points yesterday, and he's pretty much a part of this leading pack, so he knows that he's going to be collecting big points this morning as well, Hassani Hennis.
Well, he has to collect them first.
Yeah.
And he wants to get he wants to be in the top 2 today to consolidate points. A third place finish puts him in a strong position, but it's still vulnerable on the final day if another rider that gets big points today can go over him. So he'll want to finish in the top 2 today if possible.
Yeah, if he wins today, that's pretty much it, especially if Akil Campbell, who is presently in 4th spot, ends up 4th or behind. And there is Campbell, who finished in 2nd spot yesterday in 4th position, still there or thereabouts.
Whichever way it goes between Hassani Hennis and Akil Campbell, they'll be happy because they're both on the same team, and it's basically a switching of positions. So I think they're happy either way it goes between the 2 of them. What they don't want to do is finish less than 3rd.
Or allow 706P to register big marks in this one, and they have several riders in the leading pack.
Precisely.
Led by Conley.
Looks like we're approaching the sprint here now. Everybody's saving their legs, and we've almost slowed to a crawl here while riders get ready to see, waiting for the sprint, who's going to lead it out, who's going to get the surprise jump. And Hennis
getting a sense of deja vu here.
Doesn't want to be at the front technically, but he won the sprint from the front yesterday. But technically those behind him in his draft have a better chance of winning a sprint than him. But we did see him lead it out yesterday, and nobody could come around him. So maybe he has the legs for a double in that regard.
Trying to bide his time as well, as there he is, Hennis. Conley is right behind him. Brighton John on the verge in 3rd spot at the moment as they go into the shadows, just getting a little bit of reprieve before they start again. But the leading pack still obvious. Conley making that move, switching places with Hennis. Right there again, John. Then Akil Campbell, Scarano trying to make a move on the outside and takes the lead. Sani Hennis right behind him now,
covered.
trying to close that gap. And it's between these two as Scarano makes a move, the defending champion against the current leader of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic for this year.
I think Hennis will come around him with pretty much with relative ease here. And it's very exciting to see Brighton John still in this group. We thought he was suffering and falling apart not long ago. So it's going to come down to a four-man sprint.
So
I think the three behind have been shelled for the day.
So Scarano and Hennis and Brighton John and Akil Campbell. That's a top four at the moment. And again, they are trying to dictate the pace and just to make sure that they are not surprised as they head into the final few kilometers of this one.
It looks like they're bringing it back to a crawl and going to start this all over again. So we may well see those three riders come back on, and here they come.
So Hennis is still very much in charge, still very much in front, as Brighton John right on his shoulder. We expect another sprint to take place. Hennis takes a look behind, and there's another attack. Conley now into the lead.
And Hennis right on his wheel.
Yep, he's in third spot at the moment. Akil Campbell is there in second.
And they calm it down once more.
They do. Again, just testing out each other in the final stages of this race.
Trying to see what breaks.
Or who will break. Right now, they're still very much together.
I have to say, it's a fantastic ride from the 706 rider, John Butler today. I thought he was when Sutherland left him after the turnaround. I thought he had left him for dead, and it's very, very impressive ride to see him recover and find himself back at the pointy end of this race in the last seven.
Yep, just minutes remaining in this race, and still the group of 6 there or thereabouts as they head towards Witter Village.
It's a group of 7. We have the one lonely rider for Brighton John from the Unity team, and we should see them bending the home straight.
So still in front, Conley, and they are still very much together. Yep, there they are. Conley still biding his time at the top of the pack.
And it looks like they're approaching the finishing stretch here now. Our feet has just switched.
But yeah, they're still a couple of minutes away from that line. As they are making that push now. Just about going towards the finishing line. The sprint has officially begun.
And it's Hennis leading it out again.
Yep.
It looks like Brighton John on his wheel. He's found some recovery, but Hennis seems to be holding it off and will.
Yep, it seems as if Hennis is the one who is coming across the line in the yellow jersey. Brighton John trying to go there, toe to toe with him. Hennis just gets there ahead of Brighton John. What a rush to the line. And Hennis, the stage 1 winner, has picked up stage 2 from Witter Village to Discovery Bay and back, 128 kilometers. And again, it came down to a sprint. And for the second day running, Hassani Hennis has done the job for AVR Racing and his island home, Anguilla. What a ride again.
Fantastic ride. He led that sprint out yesterday and won it. Nobody could come around him, and he's done the same thing again today. Fantastic ride. Great ride from all involved in this final group. It was very competitive. The last 10 kilometers were a pleasure to watch, Donald.
Yeah, it was. They really tested each other. As a matter of fact, we can say from the turn that it got really interesting, because after the top two had spread their wings, they had closed the gap, the chasing pack.
We were treated to everything today. A long breakaway being caught, a breakaway from the main group, and attacks, non-stop attacks in the last 10 kilometers of that final group of 7. A real fantastic day of racing here.
Really, really fantastic. And they're just touching hands after crossing the line, Brighton John and Dasani Hennis.
And the interesting thing, Donald, it looks like we have the same top 3 yesterday, maybe in a slightly different order between Akil Campbell and Brighton John, but we have the same top 3 finishers we had yesterday. The podium remains the same, maybe second and third shuffled.
It was close between Campbell and John for that second spot.
We'll have to wait for one more slow motion replay if we can get it to tell how that is, but we have the same podium as yesterday.
And Asani Hennis is now the odds-on favorite to take the entire Jamaica International Cycling Classic after now winning 2 stages.
I would think so. I would think it's a done deal for him. He would be at 46 points. He would have to not finish tomorrow,
yes,
not to
out of the top 10.
Yeah, no, I think he would just have to have a mechanical and not finish the race. I think if he finishes last tomorrow, I believe by my crude math that he should win this with 46 points out of a total of 69. Unless, of course, no, the math is wrong. Unless, of course, Akil Campbell wins tomorrow, and Ennis doesn't finish in the points, then we could have a shake-up there. I don't see any other person who will be able to overhaul him.
Ennis would have to not be in the point standings, and Brighton John with an opportunity to win. That's the only other permutations that could actually occur, because as we mentioned, it's a top 3 yesterday, the top 3 today. But what a race.
Best day of racing we've seen at this race so far, and it even more exciting than the final day we saw last year. It was a really fantastic day of racing. Best day of racing we've seen in a long time.
So many ebbs and flows to this one, but in the end, Asani Hennis out of Anguilla with the win. And yeah, it did come down to a sprint.
Interesting to see if we're going to have a bunt sprint and who finishes, who is the first finisher of the Masters race. We'll bring you updates on all of that tomorrow if we don't get them here today.
Yep. But yeah, they did cross the line in under 3 hours. Did the winners. As we take a look at the finish once again, it was a dead-on sprint. It really was a dead-on sprint in the end. Asani Hennis in the yellow jersey, and Brighton John right there. Akil Campbell out of Trinidad and Tobago close behind as well. And yeah, it was always going to be close as they decided to chase that line. Thought John was going to overtake Hennis there, but in the end, Hennis did well to just hold him off. And who finished? Ooh, it's close, you know. Maybe Akil Campbell actually finished second, ahead of Brighton John. He came on the outside there and just managed to possibly pip Brighton John for second. So it's similar. The top 3 yesterday and the top 3 today, with Hennis ahead of Campbell, ahead of John.
I still want to get some confirmation that was Akil Campbell in second place, because we did have Andrew Ramsey in that group in the same uniform. Just want to make sure.
Almost sure it was Akil Campbell wearing number 80 who had come across the line there.
If it was number 80, it's certainly Akil Campbell. Ramsey is wearing the number
85.
eyes are not as good as they used to be, and I couldn't read the numbers crossing the line.
One thing for sure is that the AVR Racing team is smiling. One thing for sure is that Hennis, the champion of the first day, is the champion of the second.
Yeah, he's proved to be the man to beat, and he's earned it. He's ridden for this. It's very impressive to see him lead out a sprint 2 days in a row and win 2 days in a row. Usually the person leading out the sprint is you don't want to be leading out the sprint, you want to be coming off of the lead out man's wheel, and he's led it out from a position of strength both days and held off. Nobody could come around him.
It's actually Sutherland who actually came in second, actually. Number 86, that's what we're hearing. That Edwin Sutherland actually came in second spot.
Well deserved. He's been out front all
Yes,
day.
he has.
He's put in the hours and stayed out there. Didn't get dropped when he got caught, and deserves the second place.
Yep, big effort from Sutherland, who would have finished 8th on yesterday's first day with 3 points, but would lead for a lot of the second stage.
Fantastic ride, and it's really impressive to see John Butler and himself be out there so long, get caught, absorbed by the group, and still have what it takes when the attacks came again and another group formed, breaking away from the main group and then being in it. Fantastic ride and great resolve from both of them. We've been treated to a really, really, really combative day of racing today. It was truly a pleasure to watch.
So, results confirmed Asani Hennis of Anguilla winning, and in second position, just to confirm, Edwin Sutherland, in fact, in second position, having led for the majority of this race, just coming second with that final dash towards the line, and Brighton John out of Guyana in third spot. That's stage 2 results, the top 3 in this one. That's pretty much it for coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic Day 2 and Stage 2. They came from Witter Village to Discovery Bay and went all the way back to Montego Bay at Witter Village, and covering 128 kilometers in the process. Was a wonderful day.
Wonderful day, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow.